That steer tube is too big. Time to cut it down. Boss Nut Basics.
We've got the steerer tube here. Now if you have a look at it, you can see silver part sticking out, so that's the inside of the fork itself. And as you can see, this top cap's never going to tighten down on top of the stem. So what we need to do is we need to cut them down. Starting with top cap, I'm just going to remove this. So I've put it together just as a mock-up so you know what you would have to do from scratch. So we're going to take this top cap off and get this out of the way. It's a 5mm bit that I'm using to take off, which is kind of standard for them all. This stem and the one on the boss nut use the same bit, which is a 4mm bit in this case. You don't need to take them all the way off, because as you can see, it's just to take the pressure off. So we can pop this off now. And then we have underneath our stack of spacers, and we also have our weather seal, which sits on top of the bearing as well. So what I want to do is, the right height for me is actually 3 spacers with this one removed. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put my stem back on, and I'm going to make sure that it's fully down. Now this here is where we need to cut it down, and then we need to take a further 3mm away. So I'm going to Sharpie pen here, and I'm just going to mark the top of where the steerer tube is. So I've loosened these bolts off already, as we've seen before, so that goes out the way. And then I can take my spacers out the way as well, and this gives us room. So we now know that the bottom of this line here is where we're looking to cut, but we're going to take it down by a couple of millimeters. And the reason for that is that the top cap has a little bit of a recess. So if we look at the underside, there's a lip, but you can see the depth as well. So it's got like a dish type thing. So this needs to go in and sit right down the way. As you see, it sits a little bit proud even when it's on the top. I've got myself a pipe cutter here, or a hose cutter, and we've got the mark here, and I've just moved a couple of millimeters down. So the idea is basically just make a rotation round with the cutter, tighten up just a little bit, take it around, and we're just going to keep doing that, increasing the pressure, making a couple of circuits around, and you can see it's starting to cut a trench into the top of the pipe. Now if you don't have a pipe cutter, it's just something I've got lying around from doing various DIY stuff, is you could use a hacksaw as well, and a guide. You're cracking as it makes its way around, so we're just about to breach through, I believe, and just giving it a tweak up and a cut, and there we go. I've actually pre-adjusted this star nut, but forgetting that I was going to do a video on it, I thought I'd better show you how I adjust it. Now you do get tools, and if you have the tool, great on you. I've seen guys that will put the Allen key bolt in and then hammer on the top of it. The problem you've got with that is you can see that it's a 2-part, these little star lock nuts. So there's an inner section which is threaded, and then the outer spring metal, if you like, that grabs onto the end. So you could do that, but there's a potential of knocking the center out, and then you'll need another section, if you like, another star nut. So what I like to do is I get a hold of a little socket set that's bigger than the insert part. So essentially I'm hammering on just slightly onto the black section that you see here. So I tighten on the nut, so that way I know it's not going to wander off. And what I want to do is I want to get it down so that when I'm hammering on the socket, not the Allen key. So the Allen key's recessed there, and I'm hitting on top. So, and all you want to do is nice even blows as you're coming down, and then that keeps everything in the center. So now we've got the pipe cut. Before we assemble it, it depends on exactly what method you've used to cut off. In this case I've used a pipe cutter, which gives a very smooth outside but quite a sharp inside. So you want to pass a file around this, but most importantly on the outside edge you want to give a little bit of a chamfer. So you want to file on a little bit of an angle, and this will help when it comes to assembling the stem and the spacers. So because I've got this on the bike, normally you'd maybe take the fork out of place, but in this case I've left it on the bike. I'm just going to wrap around something along the base so that when the filings come off it's not going to drop into my headset bearing. Nice old rusty old file, it will do me for now. Not had a chance to clean, so I'm going at it at a 45-degree angle. So I do it at an angle, make it my way around, and it just so it gives a nice smooth insertion of the spacers and the stem. So just going around, and because I've used the pipe cutter, it does flare the metal out a little bit as it goes and cuts its way in, so it will be slightly thicker at the top, almost mushrooming out. Before you take away the towel, I've got an old wipe here. I'm just going to take away all the little bits of filing from the inside as well, and then I can take this away, make sure that nothing falls in there. So now we've cleaned the edges off, we're just going to reassemble in the order we want. In my case it was 3 spacer washers and then the stem on top. So it might take a wee bit of a wiggle to get it on the go. As you can see, it drops in, and nicely as we put the mark down we have dropped it underneath the lip. So if I turn the stem here, you'll notice that the bolts for the top are underneath where we've cut. So that's what you're after, is the bolts to be there. What you don't want, for example, is you've cut your stem and the gap there is underneath this, because this means that when we've got to tighten these two on, when the stem goes to tighten, you're going to end up warping the top because it's tightening onto nothing, whereas the bottom end's doing everything. Put the top cap on there. As you can see, I can push that on. It's not bottoming out against the steerer tube. So this is us ready to go. So now the moment of truth, is everything lined up, is everything cut down where we need it? So Allen key bolt coming in, 5mm, and I'm going to tighten down, and this is a good chance to see if your star nut has aligned properly, which in my case it's spot on. This is only going to be nipped up, as I've said before. This is just to take the play. So as you can see, I'm not got my hand all the way to the end of the ratchet, I've just got it here and I'm feeling it. So that's tight enough for me that all the play's been taken out. Foot on either side, and I would lean back and straighten my arms, and then what I can do, you see, is make subtle adjustments to the stem until it's exactly bang in the middle. So now we've got our alignment, the last thing we need to do is tighten up the pinch bolts on either side. So I tend to hand tighten them on to start with, just making sure that both sides have taken up the exact same amount of play, and then I would then attach my torque wrench and then set these to the exact same amount. I'll do this quite a lot, so I've got a feel for how much torque I need. It's not a lot. And just making sure obviously both sides are doing the exact same. There we go.